Friends, let us talk about Pygmalion and the themes of the Pygmalion. There are several themes in the play. Let us try to understand them. It is said we enjoy the plays in the theater. Think about it at our home. I am talking about Shaw's plays. His plays by no means are merely for the enjoyment. Entertainment, and entertainment is not the principle of his plays. He deals with several social issues in his plays. In the present play, several themes he has dealt with. But the main theme is to talk on the use of language. Language determines the social class. Should it? Perhaps this question he likes to pose. Some critics consider this play as the love story as well. Whatever it is, let us try to understand the various themes of the play in the small rotating cabin called as Shaw's Corner, a small part of a garden which was called London, is a place where Shaw wrote most of his famous plays. He thought about various social issues. Do you not know why the small place was called London? Maybe you know or maybe you don't. But let me tell you, or let me repeat rather. If somebody calls Shaw on phone, the receiver of that phone would tell the caller that Shaw is in London. this is this is a very tactful way of avoiding meeting people without hurting them. Quite interesting and quite dramatic too, na? Anyways, you can see that cabin on YouTube. Let me tell you, my dear friends, this YouTube has made us everything available. You ask for it and it is there for you. It is like that mythical character, Jinn. The jinn used to come and say, Bol mere aaka, and it gives you the things you desire. Let me come back to the themes. Primarily in this play, Shaw explores the various aspects of language. We know Higgins and Colonel Pickering are studying phonetics and linguistics. They are busy taking notes of the people talking language. How the people from the different backgrounds, how they talk, and the different areas they talk, they find people speak differently in a language. Language, no doubt, is a very powerful tool that can be used if you remember. If you remember, somebody had said, if you want to conquer the people, smartly said, conquer their language. But the language is spoken differently. You can understand, like Higgins, which part of the person belongs to by knowing his or her language. We understand that Eliza was able to change her identity merely by learning to talk differently. Actually speaking, the play Pygmalion displays the connections between language and social status. In the beginning of the play, we see that people use different dialects. They use different slangs. Higgins at a point is worried about what has happened to the English language of the great writers like Shakespeare and Milton. Shakespearean or Miltonic expressions are no doubt marvelous. Of course, of course, Eliza's way of speaking is new. It is fresh and even fashionable. The wealthier class of the people think that theirs is the only language Theirs is the only way of speaking is correct, whereas small talks, accents, slangs used by the lower class people are part of their background. It is a way of connecting people. There is nothing wrong in it. The play shows how the whole system of using the language gives opportunity to the upper class and wealthy people, a chance to oppress the people not using their kind of language. Pickering and Professor Higgins use this for their benefit by bringing in the transformation in Eliza. Eliza as the noble lady. You can note the expression. You see this creature with her keynote curbstone English, the English that will keep her in the gutter to the end of the day. Well, sir, in 3 months, I could pass this girl or that girl off as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. In this expression, you can note the words like creature, gutter, and curbstone English. We can see these words have been used for human beings. A mere dignity to be given for human beings is also not given by Professor Higgins. The determining factor is the language. A challenge is taken to transform Eliza Doolittle to a noble lady. Well, another theme of the Pygmalion I intend to discuss is transformation. Shaw, through in his plays, wants to show that any transformation can be brought in any person. He wants to show a mere flower girl can become self-reliant lady. She can become a noble lady belonging to the upper class. She can marry any worthy person. This whole process of transformation, this whole process of transformation or the metamorphosis begins when Professor Higgins tells Mr. Pickering in act number 1 that he could teach that creature to speak like duchess. We see in act number 2 she has been given bath and asked her to be clean, that her father himself does not recognize her. That was mere external. It was merely an external transformation. Further, in act number 3, when Eliza meets Mrs. Higgins, that is actually the mother of Professor Higgins, her transformation is miraculous. Mrs. Higgins tells her son that she is triumph of your art and dressmakers. Of course, we note that the change we find in Eliza is external, or we can say visible. It can be related to the notation system Professor Higgins has used for visualizing the production of the speech. They are merely the visual expression of sound of Eliza. To Professor Higgins, Eliza is like a black wood, something to be shaped and experimented. Quite often, Professor Higgins refers Eliza as creation. Here we remind of the title of the play Pygmalion. Like that great Greek mythological character, Pygmalion, Professor Higgins wants to create something special out of Eliza. Professor Higgins is not aware that a deeper kind of a transformation is taking place in Eliza. That transformation is the awakening of Eliza's soul. We can certainly note that the seed of this kind of awakening has already been there in Eliza. We can see in act number 1, Eliza is quite dignified. When she sees Higgins, she takes him as a police and thinks that he may take her soliciting prostitution. Even in the later part of the play, she thinks, on the advice of Professor Higgins, that she should get married to a wealthy person, some ambassador. She considers it would be another level of a prostitution. In ambassador's party, Eliza becomes a real lady, but here too she has displayed her dignity and her own worth. Eliza tells at a point that the difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she is treated. Eliza's transformation happens at all levels. It happens in her looks, how she appeared, and now how she appears. It happens on the level of sound, and it happens at her soul as well. In the end of the play, she breaks herself free from her creator. She becomes an independent person. We find that Mr. Shaw puts his own way of thinking that resonate Henrik Ibsen kind of a thinking. In a doll's house, as the main character, Nora, leaves the house banging the door behind her in spite of all the reconciliations done by her husband. We find her a free and independent lady, a liberated lady. Femininity is another theme of the play. Friends, we all know the play has been written long back in the second decade of the 20th century, somewhere around 1912 and 13. Obviously, the social structure of the era has reflected in the play. In this play as well, the Victorian era and the Victorian values have been reflected. The functions for women were categorically defined in Victorian period. Shaw in his play strategically builds all the layers of Victorian era. These class boundaries in the Pygmalion can be seen like a flower girl, Eliza, is a member of a working class. She obviously is poor even today. Even today, also we see that kind of a thing. People belonging to the BPO, that is below poverty line. Professor Higgins, housekeeper Mrs. Pierce, represents the servant class. Mr. Doolittle's wife to be represents the middle class. They can earn money and become rich and attain standards of living. There are Mrs. and Miss Hills. They are members of a gentle poor who do not want to work in the top of the society. There are Higgins and his family, upper class people. They are wealthy people. Shaw shows that these strict boundaries in the society did exist in Victorian society, but there is a possibility of breaching these borders. The definitions of femininity, the roles of the need to play, all can be challenged. To Victorians, there was different spheres for the men. There were different spheres for the men and women as well. Women were considered as angels of home, and men's world was outside the home. It could be it could be a business or anything else. Women were supposed to be calm and quiet, upbringing children and playing the role of a mother. To the women, marriage and motherhood were the means of financial security. Through this play, Pygmalion, George Bernard Shaw envisioned a new kind of ideal, a free spirited, educated, and self reliant woman. We find in the play Mrs. Higgins works as a lighthouse in which direction women should move. Even Professor Higgins himself tells this idea or his idea of an ideal woman in the words when he says to his mother, "My idea of a lovable woman is something as like you as possible." We understand that it was perhaps too late for Mrs. Higgins to break the borders. She expects that perhaps the next generation would take that step. Here it is Eliza. I beg to diverse. In a film like Ankur, you must watch that film. Ankur. The breaking of a glass window by that representative of the next generation also gives the same kind of a message. Let us come back to Pygmalion. What Eliza would do? Would she marry or return to Professor Higgins, Colonel Pickering, or she would choose Freddie? These were three options left before her. Is she able to break the shackles of the Victorian period? We see Eliza opts for none of that because she wants to be sound financially. That is why she may take up some other job to enable her financially strong. She has a career choice. She is well endowed in teaching all she has learned. There is a possibility that Eliza might define a new kind of a femininity, a woman independent, free spirited, free of, free of men, their influence, their power, and moreover, their patriarchy. Now, another theme we need to discuss is education and intelligence. Frankly speaking, this is needed more these days because everyone is running in rat's race. I remember reading somewhere, even if you win the race or win this rat's race, you remain a rat. perhaps, perhaps a glorified rat. If I am recollecting properly, Dr. Shashi Tharoor had once said, "We need well groomed minds rather than well trained brains." But unfortunately, we find in this world, especially in India, all the parents are desperately busy in training their children in brains. No one thinks of the mind that governs. That is why so many academies, so many training centers are there. They are growing up. Students mug up certain things. They calculate certain matters, and they are the part of that society, and that is affluent. These rich brats have no value for the lives of the common people. The very recent incident in Pune, in which two aspiring engineering youths were killed on the spot under that Porsche car, and the shameless parents running from pillar to post just to save their spoiled child. It is an example, it is a perfect example of the today's education and intelligence. For the social circumstances we live in, I felt this theme of a Pygmalion needed to be discussed at length. Two of the main characters of the play, that is Professor Higgins and Mr. Pickering, that is Colonel Pickering, are involved in only academics. They seldom think of anything else in their life. So you find Higgins is busy in making notes on how the different dialects are used and how the different languages are spoken. There is a there is a basic difference in intelligence and the wit. Higgins and Pickering are endowed with the intelligence, whereas Eliza has wit. In the beginning, Eliza is confused with the intellect Higgins has, but as the play progresses, we see that she acquires with her inborn smartness the academic things Professor Higgins teaches her. Eliza, Mrs. Higgins, mother of Professor Higgins, and Mr. Doolittle, the father of Eliza, lacked the education Professor Higgins and Mr. Pickering have had. Mrs. Eliza, Mrs. Higgins, and even Mr. Doolittle show the intelligence of different nature. Not that academic, but the life and the experience has given them. Their teachings have been done not in any academic centers, but in the life, on the streets. So we see that Eliza becomes a smart student and learns everything Professor Higgins that has taught her. Not only that, but we find she wants to make that education her life bread. Mrs. Higgins, though restricted to the family living, can manage to understand Eliza better than anyone else in the play. It is the it is only Mr. Doolittle who voices about the middle class morality. These three characters exhibit their intelligence and cleverness. Any person has a feeling and, of course, intellect. We see the academic teachings of Professor Higgins has perhaps taught him to look at the people only as his subjects. He hardly sees the people above it. Even with Eliza, he is seemingly detached and sees her only as his subject. But he does not know. At the base, he has developed a certain fond feelings for for Eliza that could be seen at the end of the play and from time to time. This is the complete downside of academic learning. He neglects Eliza as a person. He lacks the basic sympathy and the empathy which any education should provide. So, in spite of his academic excellence, Professor Higgins is least educated and learned. So, what I feel strongly is that people people should be well groomed and not just well trained. Let us take only one quote to know how education Mr. Higgins he has received is merely technical. A woman who he says, a woman who utters such depressing and disgusting sounds has no right to be anywhere, no right to live. Remember that you are a human beings with a soul and the divine gift of a articulate speech that your native language is the language of Shakespeare and Milton and the Bible. And don't sit here crowing like a bilious pigeon. Obviously, this is addressed to Eliza. Mark the words like depressing, disgusting, crooning, etc. These words speak about the language that Eliza speaks. And the sentence, you are human beings with a soul and the divine gift of articulate speech, that your native language is the language of Shakespeare and Milton and of the Bible. Takes pride in the human beings and the language it has evolved into. There is a pride in calling the English language that language of Shakespeare, Milton, and of the Bible. But it forgets the soul and the divine gift the human beings are given by the God. The dialogue celebrates the gift of language given to human beings and what has done or what has been done to that language by them. This academic perception undermines the real gift of soul and the divine gift. Mr. Haynes has miserably failed to understand this side of Eliza. And these are the true limitations of only academic achievements. Well, thank you for joining me. Keep watching and, of course, keep subscribing as well. Thank you.